Welcome to the Matt Phillips Podcast. I am Matt Phillips, your sales leadership coach, mental toughness expert, and founder of Matt Phillips Coaching. We help sales managers and leaders make more money, save time, and become kick-ass leaders of their sales teams. And that's what we're here to talk about on this podcast. We are here to give you the tools and tactics to build a well-oiled sales machine and teach you the mental toughness skills so you can show up confident, focused, emotionally in control, and ready to energize your team. It's time to talk sales leadership and mental toughness. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to today's podcast. It is Matt back with you. And today I want to share the one thing that literally changed the trajectory of my business. One small mindset shift that I know you can utilize as well that changed everything for me. It completely reset me, refocused me. It made me think differently about how I was approaching everything that I did. Now, this concept actually just came to me a couple days ago. I was having a one-on-one coaching session with one of my clients, and she said something that triggered me to tell this story that I'm going to share with you today. And I think it's fascinating as a side note how, when you're in conversation with certain people and they say something, the stories that just flood to the front of your mind, you have to share with people. And I knew after this coaching session, I had to share this with you. I tell it quite a bit, actually. I'll tell it in speeches some days, but in a lot of my one-on-one sessions, I tend to tell this story quite a bit. Well, to give you a little context and background, I've had this business for 11 plus years and so fortunate to get to do what I do every single day. And when I look back of how I've just evolved over the, over 11 years, just like I'm sure you've evolved, right? If you look back 10 years, 11 years and compare to that to where you're at now, I imagine you've made some substantial growth during that period, right? If you're in a sales role, I imagine the skill set you've gained around selling has increased substantially. Maybe the products and services, just the savviness of you as a salesperson has increased substantially. Maybe from a leadership perspective, right? The way you went into that role 10 plus years ago and led then compared to the way you lead now, it's night and day different. And that's the same thing for my business, right? When I look back 11 plus years ago, at that point, I was doing a lot of speeches, one-on-one coaching. And when you start any business, honestly, you're scratching and clawing just to get cash in the door and figure out how to position things and what your methodology is. And same thing, again, in every role that you take, right? It doesn't matter if you're in accounting, finance, sales, if you have a small team underneath you, a large team underneath you, like you're in that constant evolution. And so one day I was preparing for a speech that I was giving in front of about 250 people. And I have this process that I go through. I over prepare. That's just the way I am. That's the way I've been built. And I want those speeches when I actually get there to that day to be easy. Right? Relatively easy because I've practiced so much. I'm ready. I've anticipated. I've visualized what's going to happen. And so over to my left here, I know some of you listening to the podcast can't see me right now, but over my left is our living room. And when I'm preparing for speeches, I will have my laptop out on the couch with my clicker in hand so I can go through the slides. And I'll literally kind of pace around and walk around the computer and just practice different ways to say things. And, if is this loud or is it quiet, like a whisper, just to draw the audience in and just practicing my craft to get ready for that day. And, at this point, things were going fairly okay in my business, if I'm honest, right? Any new thing has little bumps along the way, like the ups and downs and that you have to fight through. And things were going okay though. Right. But I was always looking like, how do I make it better? How do I get better? Like grow revenue and make my impact even bigger. And so on this particular speech, what an opportunity to speak in front of 250 people. It was a bunch of human resources leaders, which, I talk to a lot because they launch leadership programs at companies. So it's an important target for me. And I'm out practicing my speech. And I'll tell you, early on, I used to get so nervous getting up in front of people, so nervous. And I wanted to make sure every word was right and every phrase was perfect. And I had the right voice inflection and again, draw people in and say exactly what needs to be said just to get this perfect point across. And so I'd practice. And in some earlier speeches, I'd get done with a speech and I'd be like, oh man, I forgot to say this. I'd be a little disappointed in myself. So I was always nervous, right? Just sweating a ton, things like that. Well, I'm practicing for this particular speech. And I don't know what it was about this day. I don't know what it was. I don't know why this thought popped in my head. But the simplest epiphany hit me. I don't know if it was God coming to me, the universe laying it out, but this thought popped in my head of, Matt, this speech you're about to give literally has nothing to do with you. Not one bit of this has anything to do with you. It's about the people sitting in the audience. And your goal is to help one person change their lives, change their business, change from a leadership perspective. That's your job. It has nothing to do with you. Now, you may be sitting there being like, well, yeah, Matt, we know that. But for some reason, I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. And when I go into some of these speeches, it was about like the way I was dressed and the way I was standing and how I looked. And at that moment, it was this shift to like, it's not about me, it's about them. And that was such a small but huge mindset shift for me, because at that point, the pressure just kind of went away. It just disappeared, because I find that when we focus on ourselves, that's when the nervousness sets in. That's when we feel like we have to be perfect. We have to be on. And when we focus and shift ourselves to focusing on the people around us, our team, our colleagues, our clients, that's when the pressure fades, because it's about serving them. It's about making sure they show up their best. Because when they show up their best, we by default are at our best. Hey everyone, wanted to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about a new cheat sheet that is available for you. Now, one thing we believe is that if you're going to be the most effective sales leader possible, you have to know your numbers. And there are all sorts of metrics that we can track, that we should track, that sometimes we feel like we should be tracking. And that's why we put together the sales metrics cheat sheet. It is a list of all the metrics that you should consider, ultimately taking that list and boiling it down to the key metrics that will make sure you are staying on track and give you indications when you are off, not only from a sales perspective, but from a leadership perspective as well. Head on over to mattphillipscoaching.com/metrics. Download that cheat sheet today so that you are that leader that knows their numbers inside and out. Now, back to the podcast. I went into that speech so relaxed, so calm. I was prepared, mind you. I still went through the same preparation process, but I was there so calm and collected, because I was focused on who's that one person in the audience that I can help today. Who is that one person? And it changed everything. I mean, I literally could have walked on the stage. My zipper could have been down, my shirt untucked. I had something in my teeth. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it's not about me, it's about them. And when you show up that way every single day, I believe it shifts everything. So when you're thinking about it from a leadership perspective, maybe you are feeling that pressure of like, well, it's about me and I have to look a certain way. I have to walk and talk and act and be a certain way. I've got to be this perfect version of a leader, or I've got to be the perfect version of a salesperson. I'm here to tell you, no, you don't. Because first of all, there is no perfection. You know this. Second of all, you're making it all about you. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the people that you serve, the opportunities that you get every single day, the people that cross your path, to impact them in a positive way, to make sure that they are taking that step forward, that they are marching in the right direction, rowing the boat the right way, so that they can have a great life, they can have a great business, they can have that problem solved, whatever it might be. That's what you're there to do. I'm telling you, that one shift changed everything. I literally go into every speech now, every coaching call, every workshop. It has nothing to do with me. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that. I remember a number of months ago, I was going to do a full day workshop for this company. We've done tons of business together. I mean, there are fabulous individuals in the room, and I know them really well. And I had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to talk about? And what am I going to do that's going to, impact them? Or what am I? And I had to catch myself in that moment, be like, Matt, hold on a minute, man. Whoa. This workshop has nothing to do with you. Like, sorry, it's not your results, it's their results. So let's take a step back and let's shift our perspective to like, hey, okay, let me gather some information. Let me ask some questions. Let me figure out and ask them, what do they need? And how do I need to show up to get them the best results? How do I shift those people in that room? That one small shift from me to them, the whole agenda of the meeting came together in about 30 minutes because I shifted my perspective. Now, how do we use this every single day? Well, first of all, is you have to make a decision right now to be like, I'm going to choose to make this decision to shift from me to them. A conscious, intentional decision. Because that's the starting point with everything. And then every interaction that you go into, and I'm talking about work and home, right? So when you think about work perspective, the people that you're leading, of course, it's looking at them being like, okay, how do I help them be successful? The question is not like, how do I look great as a leader? And how do I get this team humming so I look amazing? Like, you look amazing. You are amazing anyway. But how can I help them today? What do they need? What question do I need to ask to make them get out of their own way and be successful? And the same things at home. If you have kids, if you're married, if you're dating someone, making sure that you're focused on their success, because everybody wins when that happens. One small shift for me changed everything. The trajectory, literally from that moment of my business, it skyrocketed. And I'm not joking when I say that. It skyrocketed based on that one pivot. Because everything that I did, the products that I offered, the services that I offered, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, they have to love my product. They have to love my service. It's like, does this serve them? What do I need to shift here to make them more successful? It's not about me. It's about them. You want a substantial shift in your life, in your business, in your sales, in your leadership? Take that on, embrace it, and remind yourself every single day of this important point. All right. That is what I want to share on the podcast today. Hope you have fabulous rest of your day, fabulous rest of your week. Go crush it. Go get after it. You are meant for amazing things, and I know you can achieve those. Thanks for taking your time today with me on the podcast. Thank you for joining us today on the Matt Phillips Podcast. If you are like us, we know that you are here to do great things, to become the sales leader that makes things happen and drives big time sales results. We know you have that big vision, and we are here to help get you where you want to go. We're here to help you develop that unstoppable, rock solid leadership skill set and help you train to master the one true differentiator, mental toughness. We would love to be part of your journey. So if you are ready, head over to mattphillipscoaching.com and check out the ways that we can help. As always, please share this episode and make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below. Thank you again. And now, go crush the day.